But you know what's funny is that I actually don't remember Brittany being there.
This is the first you told me that.
Like I think I was just like so wrapped up in that moment that I only remember my friend.
Hi, welcome to Adulthood Pending Podcast. I'm Brittany.
I'm Annalise.
And I'm Kimmy.
We are a podcast for college students, recent graduates, or anyone else who is figuring out that being an adult isn't as simple as it's made out to be. Join us as we share how we are navigating our careers, post-grad lives, and the whole adulting experience.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about friendship after college, how they've changed, how you've maintained them, and how it gets more complicated after graduating. But before we get into that, we thought it'd be fun to start each episode off with a question as a way for you, our listeners, to get to know us a little bit better. So the question for today's episode is, what is your longest friendship?
So my longest friendship, I met, her name's Naomi, and we met when we were in the 4th grade. I'm too lazy to calculate how old I was, but yeah, apparently we met because she thought I did really well on math tests and wanted to copy me, straight up copy me.
Literally peek over your shoulder type of copy.
Yeah, copy.
Did you know? You didn't get mad?
She told me later, and I was at that point you have to know her and be like, I'm not surprised, honestly. But yeah, it's funny because we're just polar opposites, but yeah, I just remember bonding over American Girl and Webkinz, that era of stuff.
Nice.
And it's it's just funny how little you can be completely different, but somehow those things built such a solid friendship because we're still friends to this day. But
my longest friendship is actually with someone that I didn't even know before being born.
What?
It's a family friend. I guess so. When my mom was pregnant with my older brother, Kai, her friend, Kimmy, who I'm not named after. My mom just likes her name. I know. Spelled the same way too. Her friend Kimmy had a daughter named Kiana, which is the same age as my older brother. So that's how they met through preschool. So they're a year and a half older than me. So then when I was born, apparently my brother would get defensive because this is probably when I was more of a toddler, because he would want to hang out with me and protect me. And then my friend Kiana would want to do the same. So at first, I guess they didn't like each other at all. But later, we're all friends now and our families are really close, which is why I think our friendships have been able to maintain close because we see each other as a family. And they also have 3 kids. I'm in a family that has 3 kids. So, yep.
So she kind of saw you as a younger sister in that story that you just said? Okay. Oh, that's
for sure.
Cute.
So how did that conversation with your mom have with her friend go, where she's it's the exact same name, exact spelling, but it's
not named after you, I promise.
I'm not sure. But she definitely knows it because anytime when my Auntie Kimmy would babysit us, she would always tell people, oh, this is Kai, my younger brother, Kane, and Kimmy. Oh, but she's not named after me.
But she needs to make it known that she's not named after you. Okay.
That's funny.
My longest friendship is with my very good friend, Ben, from 5th grade onwards. Since 5th grade. I'm being really awkward about it because I had the biggest, fattest crush on him from 5th grade all the way until, this is embarrassing, I'm not going to say when it ended. I'll just say when it ended.
2019.
Yesterday. Early high school, which is a really long time. And we're just really good friends now. He knows that I had this huge crush. The whole school knew I had a huge crush on him. I'll be honest,
how are you
everyone
able to
knew.
transition?
Because he never liked me back.
Just in the friend zone for too long.
Yeah, it just wasn't like he ever had feelings back, so it wasn't like
Transition
we
from
dated
what?
or
They were
anything.
always friends.
We were always
I guess I meant like transitioning her state of mind.
Oh, you know when you really love someone so much, no, I'm kidding, and they just never love you back. No, I don't know. I think it's just like over time, I really valued our friendship more, and it was like, okay, I really like him as a person, and so I wouldn't like, I just don't see him not being in my life, and I was like, well, if I date him and things go weird, that would totally mess things up. So I'd much rather just be his friend, and it just kind of stuck that way. And also, he never liked me back. I need to emphasize this.
The one that got away.
That's me for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clarify that. Good.
Yeah, so I'm just curious what you two have learned or how your thoughts have changed about the topic of friendship, I guess since graduating or since growing older.
You know, when we were younger, and I didn't have a Tumblr, but this definitely came from Tumblr, and it was like just girly things.
Yes.
And there would be
You ran that account, I bet.
No, I did not. I did not have a Tumblr, but like there would be photos and then an overlay of a quote.
Yeah, we know. I'm very familiar with that.
Okay. In high school, I remember seeing a quote that was like from one of those accounts on Instagram, and it said something like, friendships are like stars, or good friends are like stars. You don't need to know where they are, but like they're always there for you. Something like that. Basically just
you could say that about anything.
Okay, you know what?
I don't know.
This quote got to me.
Okay, sorry.
But I think over time, like when I was younger, I associated really good friends with someone that I would spend 24 hours with. But as I grew older, I think I realized in high school that I don't need to speak to someone every day or even once a month. It's just like when we are together, and if things feel the same and everything still feels natural and comfortable, to me, that's what makes a good friendship.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. The idea of, I think growing up, a lot of it is like you do a lot of activities with people, whether that be after school activities and then you hang out with them after school, to going to college and being more independent and hanging out with them in like certain chunks. And then there's also, I don't know why this just came to me, but the friendships where it's like, hey, we should get a meal sometime. Oh yeah, for sure. And then you never do, but you still call them a friend. And then yeah, I think like for me, it's also interesting because I sometimes say that I'm friendly with someone. I don't say that I'm friends with them, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
I don't know when that started happening.
Yeah, I learned it in college. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a good term, because before I would always be like, we're acquaintances. Oh, we're friends.
Right, but that sounds
really
so
friends.
formal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why, what about you?
Me? I feel like, yeah, something I've learned is like, since like growing up and like having, I guess, more challenges to my current friendships, is like realizing that friendships are essentially a different type of relationship, which I know sounds really straightforward, but like, so with me and my boyfriend, we work on our relationship in terms of like talking and just like making sure we're like on the same page of a relationship, whereas you don't really do that a lot with friends. You're just kind of like expect them to always be there, or just expect them to be a source of fun and entertainment or social support. And so yeah, that's something I've learned, is like it like you really have to also put in work to those friendships, because they are just as much as a relationship as a romantic relationship or a familial relationship. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like growing up, a lot of it was like a popularity contest where it was like you could try to get as many friends as you could. But then later on, it was like, well, okay, well, what friendships do I value? And then which ones am I willing to put in the work and the effort to keep and to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, it goes back to what you were saying, Brittany, about like treating it as a relationship and not just a friendship, which is, I feel like, something that I've learned to do as I grow older, because it's no longer about how many friends do I have, but like, what do my current friendships mean to me?
Yeah, I think to touch on Brittany's point as well, like when I got into my first relationship, I don't know, a year and a half ago, something that surprised me is how like open we communicated with each other, because that was the first time that I had experienced that in like a relationship or a friendship. And like I remember after that situation just thinking, oh my gosh, this is how everything should be. Like we should always talk about these issues and just be super transparent. But for some reason, I don't know if it has to do with like time or proximity, or maybe just who I am, but I still feel like it's hard to just be very open with friends.
Yeah. Why is that? Like,
Does
I
that
can
make-
very easily.
yeah.
No, I totally get that. Like, I feel really comfortable being honest to certain people, like family, partners. But then when it comes to friendships, I think it's just like the idea of there's more at risk, maybe. Like, if you lose a friendship, it's like, oh, well, it's a friendship. And then there's like the risk of making things awkward, possibly.
Yeah, there is
And
like oh sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, there is, I feel like, a difference in, say, like breaking up with someone and losing a friendship. Like it's almost deeper. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like, or just more negative, I guess. Maybe because I don't know. I don't know why that is.
I mean, to your point though, Annalise said there is like more to lose in a friendship. I think like in contrast with a relationship, you know, you're either going to break up, or if you want to stay together or get married, right? So like with friendships though, there's that same path, but I feel like it's more blurred because you could just grow apart or break up or be friends forever.
Biffles.
Or ghost each other.
Oh.
Yeah, ghosting. Ooh, should we talk about that?
In terms of friendships.
Yeah.
What about like friendships that you feel like you don't get enough of in return? Like there are certain friendships where you just put so much time and effort into maintaining and you just feel like it's never reciprocated, you know?
I have lots
What are your
of thoughts on this.
Go, okay. Do you want to
Yeah,
start?
as someone who's very proactive, and I think I am like a really good friend in terms of staying in touch with people. Like I'm always the one to reach out and initiate conversations. And it actually wasn't until this past year when I met someone who is very similar. And I told her, I was like, oh my gosh, you're literally the first person who like reciprocates as much as I do. And I definitely have reflected in the past, like, why is this? And is this fair? Or how does this make you feel? And I think I approach it similarly to relationships. Like, as long as everything is overall even, like when you are with the person, if they're super engaged and stuff, like, then to me, it's fine if the only lack of reciprocation is like that initiation.
But what if they're really bad texters? Because we
So, like,
right, especially in like a digital
mm-hmm.
world, everyone's texting, and like with people like after graduating to maintain these friendships, a lot of it does require texting because you're not in the same city. So what if they're just a really bad texter?
I guess for me, I pretty much know who's a good texter and who's not. And when I do have catch-ups with most of my friends, I just text them asking to plan a date, and then we just call because that's easier. But I do have like set people in my life that I text every day, just like about random stuff. And for that, I feel like it's easier to just kind of maintain the friendship and understanding what's happening in each other's lives. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily better than the ones that I catch up with like every month.
Interesting. Follow-up question that may or may not be related, but the idea of social media and how now like you can catch up with friends, but you see so much of their life already on social media. So how do you think friendship has changed, especially in a world where people are posting updates about their life already? So in ways you already know what's happening in their life, or like the big moments, right? And so how has that maybe changed the way friendships are maintained?
Yeah, I mean, for you, Britt, because you currently don't have an Instagram, right? And I remember before you saying something like, oh, it would be nice to have so I can keep up with people, but I don't really want one personally. So how has that been for you? Like when you talk to other people and they say, oh, so-and-so posted that they went to this place. Do you ever feel like left out about that?
I did more so in college just because that was just, I don't know. I feel like it was an easy topic for people just to launch off of like, oh, I saw this on your story. You went here. How was that? That's cool. And like, I just didn't have access to that. And so in a way, I felt like it was a little bit of a hindrance. Like I wish I made one in college, just so I can do that. But I don't know. I feel like now that I have access to an Instagram account through our Instagram at adulthoodpendingpodcast on Instagram.
Nice.
I feel like I'm still not missing out on that much. Like, if anything, it just makes me feel like I'm doing a worse job. I don't know. Like, I'm doing a worse job of keeping up with people's lives because it's like, should I know about this about them? If that makes sense.
Like you're taking less of an initiative because you already know that what's going on, right?
Yeah. Or like if I did catch up with them in person, because I saw this big event, I would be a better friend because I know this about that they posted or whatever. But yeah, because I see it, I'm kind of like, oh, that's cool. But yeah,
that's good. What about you, Annalise? As an active social media user, do you think it benefits you in having access to people's lives like that?
I wouldn't say I'm active. I think, Kim, you're...
Well, you have an account.
I do have an account. Okay. Yes.
That's our standard.
If you have an account, you're active. Yes and no. So, I mean, I don't really look at stories anymore. I used to, and then I kind of stopped. And I don't really scroll that much through my through my Instagram feed either now. Just because like at a certain point, I think just like because all we do now is just be on our phones, especially in quarantine, I just feel less interested in social media. So yeah, but I feel like, you know, like it's nice to... I feel like a lot of my friendships now are just maintained through tagging people in memes and posts. And I feel like that's like the extent of how I maintain a lot of my friendships. Will be like someone will share something with me and I'll reply, haha, that's so funny. And then they'll be like, haha, yeah. And then that's kind of it. But again, like I think if there are certain people that I still reach out to regularly and talk to maintain that friendship. Yeah, I think it's also just different. So I heard from someone that they think that your best friends or your closest friendships are the ones that you make in college because you spend so much time with them, you live with them, you're basically like adulting with them, right? Because you guys sleep in the same place, you guys live in the same place, you guys eat in the same place and everything. And so I don't know. I think the people that I keep in touch with still are my college friends. But I also don't know if that's just because that's closest to me and where I am now. Like college was just a year ago as opposed to high school, which was 5 years ago. Is that right? But I also keep in touch with people from high school too. So I don't know. I don't know. It's also easier with social media, I think. So there's a pros and cons, right? I have some thoughts on social media and friendships. Okay. There's the one side where it's like, okay, you know about their life and you can ask them about it, and it's interesting. But then there's the part where it's like, well, when you meet up with them and then they're like, oh, I went to so and so, you can't be like, oh, I know, I saw, because it's kind of like that's the end of your conversation.
Yeah.
But you also already know that they went there. So then there's that side that I don't like. Or there's the expectation that they're like, oh, but I posted about it, why didn't you see that, you know? So
Do you think people have that expectation?
I think some people do, I'll be honest.
Okay.
I don't, but I feel like
Neither do I.
But I've heard like, or like, yeah, Brittany.
Oh, I've heard people be like, oh, you didn't see, I posted about it or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Interesting. I feel like
or it just because it
selfish.
happens to me so much, and I'm like have to remind people, oh, I don't have Instagram. I think it just burned into my, or at least like maybe like, oh, you didn't see, or like not maybe their experience, but be like, oh, you didn't see that person, they did this.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
But then social media is also great in that it has the ability for you to reach out and communicate with people, especially people who aren't even in the same city or country as you. So there's like I have like mixed feelings about social media and friendships.
For sure. I think it is good for connecting and even like rekindling friendships. Like throughout COVID, I've had a few experiences of just like myself replying to old high school friends' stories, and they'll do the same. And that's been kind of nice to have like that quick update. How are you?
Right.
Yeah. So something that I'm interested in learning is, after graduating, you know, I've only been graduated now for a few months. How have your friendships changed in terms of what was it like meeting new friends outside of college? Like, I've heard that's hard and scary.
Why are you laughing, Brittany?
I made 0 friends since graduating. I mean, I guess my coworkers I'm friendly with, but I'm kind of just like, once I clock out, I'm like, I'm going home. So yeah, Annalise, can you speak to this?
Yeah, so I started off okay, again, super fortunate, super lucky. I'm so grateful for this experience, but I started my job through a program that actually introduced me to a lot of other people, most of them also new grads. So, and I also started this program in August, which is usually when a lot of new grads start, right? So we're all kind of coming up from the same place. And a good percentage of us also just happened to move to Boston. So we had that. And I remember actually the people that I'm really close with now in Boston, that first night after, I think it was that first night, the first night of orientation, one of them texted me and was like, hey, we're going out for drinks. Do you want to come with? And I was like, oh, sure. Okay. So I went, and you know, we've been kind of friends since. But again, they're also coworkers in a way, because we all work in the same place, but we're on different teams and different departments. So in that way, I don't really see them as coworkers. I only see them as friends, really. But then I'm also friends with people on my team. And then, yeah, it's weird because for me, it's hard to distinguish that. I mean, obviously when I'm work, they're my coworkers, but then after hours, it's like, well, we still have to be professional because we all work together. But I think it's interesting because I work at a fairly young company too. Like the average age on my old team was maybe 26.
Wow.
Fairly young, 26,
That's
27.
Nice.
Yeah. So we all connected over that. Yeah, it's been pretty fun, but it's also interesting because we were friends for about a year, less than actually, and then coronavirus happened.
That's true.
So it's it's been like, it's not as easy to maintain those friendships just because they're so new. But that being said, like we're still friends, like we'll still text and stuff. So, and we actually just called today. We had like a little catch up. It was nice to see everyone.
That's fun.
That is nice.
But yeah, it's really hard, I think, to make friends who aren't your coworkers, because you would have to join some kind of a club or a sport to meet
Exactly.
these people, or you become friends with your coworkers' friends or your coworkers' roommates, or like your friends of
Mhm.
friends or friends' roommates.
Mhm.
But other than that, like if you want to find friends outside of work on your own, you'd probably have to join some kind of club or
Yeah.
sport.
I
That's
guess
what I've heard.
yeah, I remember hearing that. And one of my like closest experiences to that was when I was in Japan for the summer. And the only people I knew there at the time were my family friends and then two other students that were also there. One of them I was good friends with, the other one I'd never met. So we like linked up and hung out, but we also did Meetup, which is like a
Yeah.
online platform where you basically meet up based on like similar interests. And since we were in Japan, we went to a few like learning Japanese for Americans events. But one of the friends that went to my school that was there, she went to like a Fourth of July event in Japan. So it was like guaranteed to be all Americans. And she met someone there from Texas who then I later became friends with.
Yeah, friends of friends.
Yeah, but it was definitely really hard to just be in a new place and like not know anyone and figure out how to connect with people. I had to be very resourceful.
Yeah. But it's
Yeah.
also hard, just like, I'm curious, Kimi, did you ever feel comfortable going to those events alone? Because I've thought about like going to meetup, but as like a woman, I don't really feel
Exactly.
super comfortable going to those things alone. Like I'm like, I want to make
Uh-huh.
friends, but I also want to be safe.
Yeah, there was another one we went to. It was like 18 and older, and it was a drinking event, but like very casual. And none of us wanted to go alone either because we were concerned about that. So we went
Right.
together. Um, but that definitely is hard. I mean, I guess if I were to go by myself, I'd go in daylight to non-alcoholic
Yeah.
event. But
The other tricky part about like making friends after college is once you find that group, it's really hard to then expand that group, because then you'll meet all of their friends and they'll have met all of your friends, and it's like, well, now what? Like we can only expand
It's
so
too late.
much.
I guess too when you're in a different place, because like for Brittany and I, we're both back home right now, so it's really easy to have those friends available.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you two think. Sorry. Like I guess so when quarantine first started, I think there's a lot of pressure. I get to use that time to catch up with everyone, to like be productive, and that in that sense also be productive in your relationships. So I guess, do you feel like there is kind of an unnecessary pressure to keep up with people, especially when your most friendships right now are long distance friendships?
I guess I mean, I understand what you're saying about that pressure. I feel like I definitely felt it to reach out to people that I hadn't spoke to in a while. But I feel like for me, like my friends have always played such a large role in my life. Like even when I was in college, I would just talk to people on the phone, like literally call 10 people and see who picked up and just like chat with
What?
them. I'm serious. I'm not even joking. And chat with them for like 10 minutes walking to class and then 10 minutes walking up if they could. So now obviously I can't do that, but I've tried to like integrate that into my life by I'm very goal oriented. So setting a goal to chat with 2 friends a week, just because like that makes me
Oh
happy
wow.
catching up with people. And I just like really being in the know in my friend's life. Um yeah.
Can I ask if these friends are friends on rotation, or is it always someone new?
The
I'm just
10 that I
curious.
would call, or like the now 2 a week.
The both, I guess.
Both? I would say to some extent it's on rotation, not like strictly like, oh,
Right.
yeah, but oh, I haven't talked to this person in a while. I talked to that person last week. Let's talk to this person this week.
Okay. Interesting. Huh. Yeah, I guess for me, the people that I reached out to more were friends, again, that I already had like an existing strong friendship with. It wasn't like people who I hadn't talked to in years and was like, hey, we should catch up. But I think if anything, I started talking to people more. Like the people that I used to consistently message, I've been messaging them way more than usual, like every day, because that's all I do.
I mean, same. I think because now, like, if COVID didn't happen, hopefully I would be in a work environment and I would have to be super focused and like would have my colleagues to talk to. And now I have no one.
That's so
I'm
true.
just at my desk.
Yeah, I used to be so bad at texting people because I would get a text message, I'd see it, but I'd be working, so I'm like, okay, I'll reply later, and I would completely forget to reply. And now it's like I reply in like seconds.
Yeah.
Not great.
I
But
feel
I
like
do.
my experience is like total not opposite,
Really?
but like, well, it's just because, oh, first of all, I still work in person as a scribe, so my texting etiquette has pretty much stayed the same in terms of like I'll get to it probably mostly at the end of the day.
Right.
And then secondly, I feel like Kimmy, you mentioned earlier like you I don't know how friendships are the type that where you can come back to them, it'll like pick up where last leaves off. I feel like I'm definitely, that's how I view friendships as like I'll just I'll give all my all for pretty much all my friendships, but I don't feel the need to talk to everyone every single day. Like, of course, if they do that, I'm happy to, but it's just like not a standard I necessarily need.
Right.
And so like when coronavirus hit, I just remember like when people like podcasts I listen to, they're like, oh, I just spent this weekend catching up with my friends and catching up with this. I was just like, what the heck? Why am I supposed to be doing all this stuff? I mean, like, of course I like, it's not like I hate talking to my friends. I love talking to my friends, but I was just like, wow, I feel like it's just another pressure to like uphold in terms of scheduling calls and texting people, because I feel like when I text people, I don't like, or when I catch up with people, I don't like texting someone I haven't talked to in like 4 months, being like, hey, what's up? Like, I want it to be a full-on phone call, which makes it pretty difficult sometimes. But yeah.
So Brittany, you just mentioned that you felt like there was a lot of pressure to start reaching out to people because it seemed like everyone else was doing that. I'm curious to learn, like, did you feel like you were a bad friend during that time? Or what in particular do you think both of you could improve on becoming better friends?
So I think the short answer to that question is yes. I thought I wasn't supporting people during a time where everyone was having a very difficult time. And part of that was because I think I was having a very hard time myself, because during that time I was studying for my MCAT and just, of course, dealing with what it felt like to live through a pandemic. But I don't know, that's also just a really big insecurity I have as a friend. I guess tying into your question of what are things I could improve as a friend. So I think my personal way of dealing with hard times or just mentally not doing well is I just don't confront anything. Even if that thing is a positive thing, like hanging out with a friend or trying to take care of myself, I often will not do that. And so I think during that time when I thought people were catching up and trying to support each other through that pandemic, through going through a pandemic, I felt like I was being very selfish in just regressing to the only coping mechanism I know, and that's not checking my phone, not replying to people. And yeah, I think that that's an insecurity I have with as being a friend, because sometimes I feel like I often can't support other people because I feel like I know that's my coping mechanism when I go through hard things. And sometimes I'm not the best at helping others because I know like I often can't help myself sometimes. So yeah.
So do you think that expectation that you place on yourself comes from the fact that you think a good friend is one that's like always there for another friend? Or where do you think you get that perspective
Definitely.
from?
Like I think because I do have that expectation as a friend who will support you when you need them most. And not to say I would ignore them, but I just see myself as not the most, I don't want to say stable, but not the strongest source of support in terms of reaching out to them and checking in on them. Like I think if someone were to text me, they were going through a hard time, I would of course reply and try my best to help them, but I'm not the best person to initiate conversation with people because like I said before, like that's not necessarily my standard of friendship to always be texting someone, especially. Yeah, so I think I because I have such a high expectation for friendship, it's really hard for me to reach that expectation, and so I'll always just feel like a really bad friend, which kind of drives me to sometimes just regress into my own way of coping, which is to not tackle the problem that is at hand.
Yeah, I can't speak on like behalf of your other friends or even Annalise, but I feel like I've never thought of you as a bad friend. Like everything you're saying, I understand. But I think like, I mean, I guess it's just dependent on what people expect out of you. But I think it's really important that you put yourself first before others. Like you need to get a grasp of what's happening in your life before you can help others. So I don't think you should feel bad about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're a great friend, Brittany.
Oh, wow. You're gonna make me cry.
I think I do take initiative in reaching out to people. So I
Well, how do you think you can improve beyond being the initiator in a friendship?
It's definitely just tough now because everything you don't see, just because we're in a pandemic and it's discouraged to meet up with people. And I feel like a lot of relationships are built on having conversations with people, specifically in person, because it's different when you're texting behind a screen versus actually meeting up with someone. So, I mean, in a ideal situation, to be a better friend for me would mean like being for them physically and in person, but I just can't do that right now because we're in a pandemic. And I think something that so with my friendships, a lot of it, as I've mentioned, is like sharing memes and tagging people. But to go beyond that and like actually checking on their feelings, how they're doing in general, rather than, surface level joking around, I think is a way to improve.
That's true. I do like the memes though.
They're fun. They're fun, but memes only go so far in a friendship.
That's true. That is true.
I would say for me, something I think I can improve on, like similar to Annalise, I think I'm good on like the initiating end. But I think sometimes I could be perhaps like judgmental when people tell me things. And I feel like I'm like very solution oriented. So I'm like, okay, here's what I think is best, what you need to do to fix this problem. And like, of course, people are going to approach that in different ways. But if like a problem keeps recurring and I keep telling people the same things, then I get frustrated because I'm like, okay, I'm trying to help you to the best of my ability. But now I just feel like, I don't know, now I just feel like you're like hurting yourself through doing the same thing over and over. So yeah, I'm not really sure, like, so I guess for that, I think I could be a better friend in being less judgmental or more understanding toward like other people's processes and perspectives. And perhaps like if I do see an issue getting worse with someone, just like bringing it up, like, hey, I've gave you this advice multiple times. Maybe it's the wrong advice, but like, why do you think this problem is still happening?
I will say, I think, Kimmy, you're a very logical person and I'm a very emotional person. And we've had conversations where I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then you're like, well, you're thinking with your feelings. And then you're telling me to like do things more logically. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like, yeah, I think your different perspective also helps me because we see things differently. That it's nice to have like a more logical approach. Whereas for me, I think a lot about feelings and how I'm hurting people emotionally.
Yeah, ever since that Enneagram type, I'm like, Annalise is very much a 9. I don't even know any other 9s. Well, I do, but like, yeah.
The one that embodies 9 the most.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think as someone who I feel like fits the type that even if I have a problem and I know the solution, I do like talking about it. I guess, do you understand that thought process of sometimes the most therapeutic thing isn't necessarily like an answer, but going through the process of talking it out? Does that help you feel more empathetic towards people who maybe come with you with the same problem over and over?
Yeah, I think talking it out is really good. Like that's also how I problem solve, but I definitely like talking things out in person as opposed to texting because I just feel like a lot of things get lost through text.
For sure.
Especially because I'm like, shoot, did I just hurt someone with what I said? Like, oh, I think you should do it this way. And then they're like, okay.
Right. Emotions are hard to convey through text. Yeah.
So you're saying I should just call you?
Honestly, do it.
Alrighty.
So we started the podcast off by asking our longest friendship, but we never really talked about how, I guess, we became friends.
Which we touched on episode 1, but not fully in depth. I don't think we've even like fleshed it out, our first impressions.
Yeah, we actually all hate each other. This is purely business. No, but we're friends, right? So I guess like
yes,
came to be.
I mean, you two met before I met either one of you. So what did that look like?
Yeah, Brittany, what did that look like? So, you love this story. You love telling the story.
I do love this story because it's so Annalise. So it was like
it was me first year. I will say like I don't think I'm that person.
Yeah, okay, I will take that away. Yeah, that Annalise, her first year. So it was like, so Annalise and I, so Scripps is very small. So I had become orientation friends with one of Annalise's friends from high school. And then we just like happened to meet at one of the first events. And she introduced me to Annalise. And then later after the event, it was lunchtime. And this is like the 4th, 5th day of school, technically.
Yep.
And we all, went to the dining hall. We all sat down. We were starting eating, like literally like 2 bites in. Annalise is like freaking out in the corner talking to her friend, and I was like, what's going on? And then like 5 more minutes later, she's like, okay, I'm so sorry guys, like I have to go, like I'm just so flustered or something. I don't even know what she said. And it turns out that like there's this boy who was sitting like one table over, and Annalise just couldn't handle being that close to him. And I was just like, she left, and I was like, who is this girl that has so much drama literally 5 days into school that she can't sit at like where? I don't even know where you ate lunch that day.
I know, I remember. We don't need to go into where, but I remember. But you know what's funny is that I actually don't remember Brittany being there.
This is the
Oh my
first you told me
gosh.
that.
Like I think I was just like so wrapped up in that moment that I only remember my friend.
Do you remember meeting me though at the event before?
No, I don't.
At convocation? You don't remember me?
No, I don't. Wait, were you was it with Jiaming?
No, it was with Maya.
No, see, I don't remember that.
She was
But
like, hi, yeah. Oh my god.
I think the first memory that I can recall of meeting you, Brittany, was at that lunch we had or dinner. It was with our mentors, I guess, part of the Asian American mentor program.
That was the first time
That was the first time that I remember meeting you. Wait, is that
Exactly.
right? It was either that or it was when another mutual friend introduced you to me after one of our classes.
I think
And
I
then you
didn't
came
know
to
you
lunch with
then.
us.
Yeah, I think the mentor one was before.
Yeah, so that's my first memory of
What-
Brittany.
What was your impression of me?
You were quiet,
I was.
which I now know is not true.
It is.
I mean, Brittany
Um,
comes off as quiet.
She
when you
does,
get
yeah.
to know
Like when you
her.
first meet her, she is really quiet, and then you get to know her, and you're like, who
How
is
did I
she?
miss this girl for my entire life?
Yeah, how have I lived all
Basically.
my life without knowing her?
And Kimmy, I can't remember
I
exactly.
can't remember either.
I was trying to recall. I think it was for me and Brittany, when my sophomore year, her junior year.
Sophomore year.
I definitely
Yes.
interviewed you for the
Yes.
Really? I remember you
Yeah.
when at retreat. So the
Well,
same Asian
yes.
American program, we had a retreat, and Kimi is a year younger. So Brandon and I were both mentors, and Kimi was a mentee. And I remember meeting you there. But I also remember knowing your brother before because he's in our year, and he's at
Mhm.
Harvey Mudd, and I'm on that campus a lot for my major.
Mhm.
So I remember knowing you, and then I lived with you for a year.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think what happened was so my sophomore year, I guess first thing was the first year, my sophomore fall, wait. My first year when I decided I was going to study abroad my sophomore year,
Yes.
I wanted to live in a suite because I really wanted to have my own room, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really one of the only ways you can as a sophomore. So I saw a post that one of Annalise's suite mates, who was my Asian American sponsor mentor, posted about. And
Yes.
I messaged them, and then they told the suite, and Annalise's suite and them accepted me. So that's how I was able to live with them and get to know Annalise. And then that same summer, when I was in that Asian American sponsor program, during our training that happened during the summer, that's when I got to know Brittany better. Like, I remember we did a lot of personality things and just, like the typical bonding stuff. And when we were walking to like one of the local cafes, I asked her if she was a specific Myers-Briggs type because I
he was
just
really
sensed it.
into that.
Oh my gosh,
You're
I totally remember this. I was like, are you like a INFJ or something like that? Because you remind me of one of my friends.
Oh, I do remember you saying I
Yeah.
remind you of one of your hometown friends. Yeah.
Yes, and those are like people that I typically get along with well, or like the
So
NFJs.
you were like, oh, you're that, so I'm going to be your friend whether you like it or not. Like,
I mean,
get
I was
along
like,
with you.
I mean, maybe. I just knew that we'd be compatible.
Yeah. Wait, Kimmy, I remember I knew you from that sponsor program. But I remember maybe one of the first times I got really close to you or would consider you as more like a friend more so than just a mentor that was part of the program was when we were at that retreat and okay, we don't have to add this in, but when we were at the retreat and then one of the toilets had his when the lid was closed, on top of the lid was rats for some reason.
Yeah.
A photo of rats.
So
Cartoon
it looked like
rats
were in the toilet.
It looks like rats were coming out of the toilet.
Oh.
And that was the toilet seat cover, and I took a photo of it and kept sending it individually to Kimmy.
Really?
And Yeah, you'd be like, stop it. Stop sending me the, or maybe it was in the group chat, but I would just do it to like antagonize Kimmy specifically because I knew she didn't like it.
I mean, Britt just had it out for me. She also thought that I was a Disney girl.
Oh,
Literally, like the third day of this retreat, she's like, Kimmy, do you like Disneyland?
No, I
See,
said
that's the thing. Like, Brittany's so quiet, and then you get to know her, and she just like comes for you, and you're like, what?
No, it was a comment where like I automatically assumed you like knew Disney or something, and you're like, I don't know, I never watched that, and I was like, you're not a Disney girl?
Now I know it's probably just your way of trying to bond. So
Yeah, it's quite polarizing.
Yeah. And then we all live together. The end.
Yes.
yeah.
We
Well,
all live
I think it's
together.
kind of interesting because you two were close, and I feel like I was close individually with both of you, but we didn't all really become close together until we lived together. Or
Yeah.
my junior year, your senior year.
Our senior
Oh
year,
yeah, that is true.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess
Now
yeah,
you mention
because
it.
we were it was interesting because we were all individually close to each other. We never like thought anything of it.
In this episode, we covered a lot of topics dealing with friendship, how social media can play pressures on friendship, how COVID has impacted our friendships, and how we've really tried to maintain friendships during this time. So if you had to give our listeners one tip out of this episode, what would it be? One of my tips would be a quote that I've heard many times, and it's like, the 5 people that you surround yourself with are the ones that are most, or like make up you. Okay, that wasn't explained well, but like just surround yourself by good people. And one of my old advisors would always say, like, so choose wisely because these people are really going to impact your life. So I think it's like always interesting to reflect on how your friends have shaped you and in ways transformed you.
I guess my tip is that if a friendship is, this is so bad for me to say, but I honestly do believe that if you're giving more into a friendship than you're receiving, it's totally okay for you to reevaluate and decide whether this friendship is worth your time and energy. And if not, it's okay to kind of cut them off, not in a harsh way, but kind of what Kimmy's saying, like the people that you surround yourself with make up who you are. And if there's someone that I think you are giving more into and not getting enough back, then it's okay to reevaluate that. There's no rule saying that you have to be their friend, you know. I said again.
You could cut it out.
I would say my thing I've learned about friendship over the years is there's no set way that a friendship should look. Like it's not like you have to eat lunch with them every single day like it is in
Elementary school.
Yeah. I was like, what's that grade? And yeah, you don't really have to live up to a standard of friendship if they make you happy. I think friendships can look a wide variety of ways.
For sure.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a comment about your longest friendship and to tag that person. You can follow us on @AdulthoodPendingPodcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or @AdultPendingPod on Twitter. And you can also send us an email to hello.adulthoodpendingpodcast@gmail.com. Join us every other Monday for new episodes. We can't wait to share even more stories and are excited you're with us on our adulthood journey. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.